Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. We are reporting live. It appears as if the U.S. Senators has traveled to Denmark to stand in solidarity with the leaders there because Trump seems to be intensifying his push to take Denmark potentially militarily. Now, he's made an offer for Greenland, but I'm not sure that the leaders of Denmark wants to pursue Trump's offer or wants to sell Greenland or wants the U.S. to occupy them or take them or control them or rule them or whatever. So it seems like Trump's opposition, they're saying they're a bipartisan delegation that went over there to stand in solidarity with those leaders. We're going to join live to see what happens with this conversation.
And partner, we had a strong and robust dialogue about how we extend that into the future. We expressed our gratitude for the sacrifice of Danes who served and fought and died alongside Americans when we were attacked 25 years ago. We spoke about the value of NATO and the commitment to respecting the core principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and self-determination. And we spoke with clarity about the importance that the people of Greenland make their decisions about their future. So it was a constructive and hopeful dialogue, and we look forward to continuing.
Thank you. I want to pass on the floor to Makowski.
Thank you. Thank you for your continued friendship, your leadership, and to my friend and the leader of our delegation, Senator Coons, thank you for leading such a strong bipartisan and, as you point out, bicameral delegation. I think that that's important. I think it's important that it be recognized that when it comes to matters of relationships with our friends, with our allies, as we have here in Denmark, as we have in Greenland, that it is not a subject of Republicans versus Democrats. It is a recognition, again, of a strong and a continuing relationship over decades. It is one that we need to nurture, as with all relationships. You need to nurture and take care of them, and you need to have constructive dialogue. And as has been noted, there's not only been good dialogue here at the Parliament today, but this morning earlier with the Prime Minister of both Greenland and of Denmark. Just yesterday in Washington, D.C., we had visits with the foreign ministers of both Greenland and Denmark. So constructive, important dialogue that is ongoing now and will move forward. So it's important to be here. I think presence means a lot. And this, again, bipartisan delegation to be here with our partners is important. So thank you for the opportunity to share the time and, again, the fellowship. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it also. I want to pass on the floor to Pibaluk Lunge from Inatsisartut.
Koya nakkalallisut oqatiiqqaalaassapaqa pingaarutakammat kalaallit maani inatsisartut sinnerluipeqataasinnaanassaat kalaallit sorusunnersut kalaalluna sorusunnersoq kalaalliningaanni amtakkuttussaamma taamaam aamma uagut Amerikkarmiunut kissaatigut suleqatigikkusunnermullu angunnissaat pingaartissimaгаtsigu maangpeqataasinnaagat qoyanaq aamma kalaallit nunaat naatumu ilaasortaavor taamaattum aamma suleqatigiinnerput suleqatigikkusunnerpull uan angupparput. I'll switch over to English. We have very few journalists in Greenland, so it's really important to get that out in Greenlandic first. But as I said, it was really important for us at the Inatsisartut, the Greenlandic government, to attend this meeting with the senators and representatives because we have really wanted to have a dialogue with them. And dialogue is first and foremost really important for us. And I hope we can continue. And I hope it is the first of many, many more dialogues we can have in the future because we are a member of NATO and we are happy to cooperate through NATO. And I think we have much more to work with each other on in these situations because NATO has been here for many, many years, and we hope that it will stay many more years to come. Thank you.
And then I want to pass on the floor to Christian Friis Bach.
Thank you very much. let me also warmly thank the senators and representatives for coming. This dialogue was of crucial importance in an uncertain time for the Kingdom of Denmark. We have underlined that our friendship and our partnership must build on trust and on respect, and how crucial this is for our alliance, for our freedom, for our security and prosperity. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for coming all the way to Denmark to strengthen our dialogue. This is important in an uncertain time.
Thank you very much. I just want to conclude, and I want to say that we have also talked about the human dimension, the pressure that people are feeling back home in Greenland, and I think it was well received. And of course, they understand the concerns that we have in Greenland. So I want to thank my colleagues, both from Greenland and from Denmark, and also from US, for being here. I know it's a time that is difficult, and therefore it's important to have close collaboration and also respect. And of course, between Greenland and Denmark, we stand fully united. Thank you very much. If you want to ask some questions, you'll be able to ask some questions one-on-one. I would suggest we do that instead. We can take a few, sure.
Can I ask you
One second.
Could you tell us if Donald Trump is set on buying or occupying Greenland? What can your visit here, what can the Congress do to stop him? Because it hasn't gone away now for a year.
I think it's an important message for the people of the Kingdom of Denmark to understand. And I don't want to go into a basic civics lesson here, but we have three separate but equal branches in the United States. The executive, the presidency is clearly one, and you're hearing from the executive branch. The Congress also has a role. The Congress has a role, certainly when it comes to spending authorities. The Congress has a role in basically helping to facilitate the message that comes from our constituents to be reflected in whether it's legislation or appropriations or actions or measures that can indicate, again, the will of the Congress. And I think it is important to underscore that when you ask the American people whether or not they think it is a good idea for the United States to acquire Greenland, the vast majority, some 75%, will say, we do not think that that is a good idea. This senator from Alaska does not think it is a good idea. And I want to build on the relationship that we have had. As Aya and I penned in an op-ed about a year ago, Greenland needs to be viewed as our ally, not as an asset. And I think that's what you're hearing with this delegation.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure that we get the Greenlandic news. So.
Tässä nunattani paatusaana qartariaqarpoq kalaalsorusunnersut aamtoqqartuta oqaloqatigisariaqaratsigit aamakis qinnuivigivagut angussagut nunaqqatimin anguteqqullugu taamaattumik pisariaqarsorivara oqaraanni nunatsinni aaliangernerpissasoq taam nunatsinniinnipi aniasariaqarpoq taannalu neriutigaara oqaloqatiginner ual siulliusun amerlasinnaasuni oqaatigineqarpoq
Eqqisiipisinnaavuumassakut.
Tässä misigipuutusaanaqarluta oqaloqatigin ingerlalluarpoq aamma misigivunga paasineqarluarluta tusarmaarneqarlutalu.
Thank you very much. Samitya? Yeah, one moment, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm from Semitiak, Greenlandic Media. A question for you, Senator. What are your hopes in terms of being able to influence the president to drop his ambition to take over Greenland? What can you do?
I think I shared a bit of that response in the previous question here. Again, in Congress, we have tools at our disposal under our constitutional authority that speaks specifically to the power of the purse through appropriations. But I think we're distracting from the purpose of this visit here. This visit is to, again, have this dialogue, to hear directly from the people of Greenland. And we heard about the concerns and the fears directly from the people of Greenland, talking with the people here, whether in Copenhagen or throughout Denmark, but also understanding more broadly what this means, not just to Denmark, to Greenland, but to the NATO alliance. And so what we are engaged on with this trip is to take back much of what we are receiving now from you to the United States. We also rely on the media for most of our input, but there is no better input than the dialogue that we have just had throughout the course of the day. So that is the purpose.
We have one last question that will be from New York Times, but I want to make sure that my good colleague Senator Combs also has the opportunity to say something.
I'll answer.
Okay.
Perfect. New York Times. I just wanted to ask, there's been a lot of support on the Hill, bipartisan support for legislation that would limit the president's ability to act unilaterally. Where are you on that right now? You're talking a lot, but are you moving forward with any kind of constraints on him?
Speaking for myself, I would support that. But let me just emphasize what Senator Murkowski just said about the purpose. There was a bipartisan group of senators yesterday in the Capitol, hosted by Senator Shaheen, that met with the Danish foreign minister, the Greenlandic foreign minister. This is a different group, of a bipartisan group of members of the House and Senate. We are listening to our friends and our colleagues from the Greenlandic and the Danish parliaments, and we will be bringing back to the United States insights. Are there real pressing threats to the security of Greenland from China and Russia? No, not today. Are there real opportunities for us to partner through NATO to contribute to Arctic security? Yes. And if we ask respectfully and plan together, we can achieve that goal. Are there opportunities to develop sustainably the resources of Greenland if that's of interest to American companies? Yes. And so there's a lot of rhetoric, but there's not a lot of reality in the current discussion in Washington. And part of the point of this trip is to have a bipartisan group of members of Congress listen respectfully to our friends, our trusted allies and partners here in Denmark and from Greenland, and to go back to the United States and share those perspectives.
Okay, the Greenlandish people, especially their reporters, they don't like the fluff. They understand this is an opportunity for these politicians who really are powerless in terms of what they can do or cannot do to stop Trump. They haven't been able to stop him in anything he's been doing. And they really have no legal grounds to stop him. The Greenlandish people and the reporters are asking, what can you do to actually stop him? And they're giving them, lessons on civics and 3 branches of government and things of that nature. Even if they created a bill in the House, it still has to go through the Senate, which is controlled by the Republicans. The House is controlled by the Republicans, and Trump still has to sign off of it, of which he would veto, because in his estimation, this is a matter of United States security. Now, I'm not big on Trump going around and taking leaders of other countries under the guise it's suitable for U.S. interests. I'm not big on that. I do, however, understand his argument with regards to Greenland. If the United States is a major contributor to NATO, and NATO is really kind of not as big of an influence without the United States presence and military force, and then NATO highly relies on the United States to provide military support, funding, weapons, production of weapons, and leadership, as well as intelligence and things of that nature. And then the U.S., as a representative of NATO, as a leader of NATO, says to NATO, we deem that there's a threat here with Greenland, and let us tell you why. As the ice is melting, that is creating new shipping trails that is now being exploited by our enemies. And it's also positioning or granting our biggest threats, the Chinas, the Russias of the world, an access point where they themselves can exert their authority, because there is no real opposition to stopping them should they decide to do so. Greenland being a country that is autonomously run, even though they're affiliated with Denmark, they're not exactly a member of NATO per se, whereas the U.S. would have to attack. So what the U.S. is saying is we can be proactive and already position ourselves to be in Greenland, set up our bases, do what we need to do. In the event Russia or China should in any way, shape, or form choose to exert their authority in this area, then we would have already been there, poised and ready to defend the area. That's a proactive approach, as opposed to leaving the threat unhandled, allowing them to exert their authority, and now us being reactive, because now it triggers an Article 5 requirement out of NATO, and now we're fighting to acquire space that we've already lost. So it's a difference between taking a proactive approach versus taking a reactive approach. Proactively, we can already, as a critical ally and member of NATO should allow the U.S. to have access to the island so they can provide protection. No different than how a Qatar allows the U.S. to have big military bases and be able to exert their authority there. They should be allowed to do that, because they're saying we are assessing a military threat, a potential economic threat with regards to the ice melting and there being new shipping lanes. And if those areas are controlled by our adversaries, then we will be playing from behind instead of playing from ahead. That's really Trump's argument. And I think he makes a similar argument with Canada in terms of certain threats that he sees. Now, these are countries that has relied on the protection of the United States for decades, years. And so in every other setting where the U.S. was providing free protection, where the U.S. was providing free funding, where the U.S. was doing everything for them and not asking anything of them, they were totally okay with that arrangement. But the moment the U.S. says, well, since we're a critical member of NATO, and really without our influence, NATO really ceases to exist, because we pay the most money, we contribute the most money to the organization, we have the most firepower, we make the most weapons, we are really the primal threat that makes any other country respect NATO. And now we need a favor from you, NATO. We need you to give us land so that we can position ourselves against your potential enemies. And then these people push back on Trump as if he is crazy, not just Trump, but the United States in their interest, as if he is crazy for even suggesting that those areas of defense where they feel like there's some vulnerability should be covered. Now, if he doesn't cover it, let's just say Trump completely pretends that this is a non-issue. And let's just say Trump completely pretends that this is not something that the U.S. should, be in a tizzy about. And then his fears comes to fruition, and the Chinas and the Russias of the world actually start to exploit those vulnerabilities and take positions there. The moment that triggers an Article 5 reaction, the one attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, NATO is going to be coming back to the U.S. saying, well, help us now stand up to these adversaries who are now trying to take something, who are now attacking a NATO-related country. They're going to come back to the U.S. anyway and ask for help should our adversaries decide that they want to actually come and attack them at some point in the future. So Trump is saying, before we even do all of that, we're going to be proactive, and we're going to, for lack of a better word, flex our muscles a little bit. We're saying, because we are affiliated and associated with NATO, a major contributor, a major supporter, NATO needs to help us take initiative to protect our interest, our military interests, our economic interest. And when we need the space to set up shop, we don't want pushback as if we're some foes that you can't really trust because our intentions are nefarious. No. So what this is actually doing, which is what I fear that these guys are not paying attention to, it's actually exposing something to Trump and his team. It's exposing to Trump that NATO countries were never really friends anyway. It's like having a friend that's always okay with you picking up the tab every time you guys go out. The friend that's okay with you buying everyone drinks. The friend that's okay with you paying for everything. Until one day you say, you know what? It's my birthday. You still want me to pay on my own birthday? And all of a sudden you start to see the true colors of the friend. All of a sudden, even though you've been picking up the tab the whole time, they forget. And now they start to look at you differently, like, how could he expect us to pay or to do anything? If you have a friend that just expects you to sort of carry the burden, anytime you get into a fight, they expect you to show up there and be there for them, support them, bleed for them, fight for them, stand up with them. When they're low on money, they come to you. When they need some sort of connection, hookup, they come to you. And the moment you have a request, all of a sudden, they are turning their head around you and rolling their eyes and treating you like you haven't helped them all these years. It actually exposes the fact that they were never really your friend in the first place. And what this is doing, and I hope these NATO people play it right, because I think they should be instrumental in making a deal with the US for Greenland, under the premise that this is something that's going to protect all of our interests. Russia is NATO's enemies. They're not really our enemy. We don't have no problems with Russia. But if NATO is coming back and telling us Russia's a threat to us and you should get involved with the Ukraine thing and you should get involved, you should help us, you should give us more money, you should give us more support, you should give us security guarantees because Russia's a threat to us. And then Trump finally says, you know what, you're right. I can see why Russia could potentially use NATO or potentially threaten NATO in the area of Greenland because now there's economic trails opening up, shipping lanes opening up. There's a lot of resources there. There's a lot of incentive for Russia to go flex their muscles and take a land that's not really protected, that's vulnerable. So we're going to be proactive, and we want that space. We want the authority from you guys to be able to militarily defend that space as a major ally of NATO. And they say, no, we don't want you to touch it. You're stealing the land. You're doing the most. And it potentially threatens the whole alliance between the US and the NATO. Then Trump sees these people's true colors. And I think this is going to blow up in their face. Now, what you have is a group of people from the United States who are trying to undermine Trump by all means necessary, even though they themselves are aware of the threat assessments because they are part of committees that has these high-level discussions with our military officials and people who are explaining the process to them in detail. They themselves are well aware of those threats because it's being communicated to them. And then they still, a small group of them, travel with no real intention other than the spotlight, to get spotlight, to change the narrative about a guy they don't like. They go there for the sake of making him look bad. So what the guy just said when she said, can you actually do anything to stop him? The answer is no. They really can't do anything to stop him, because under how he's framed it is, this is a military threat. This is something that directly affects the United States well-being. So we feel that there's a threat here, and we're going to be proactive to address the threat. They can't do anything to stop it based on how Trump has framed it. And it's because these people know these folks can't do anything to stop it that they traveled and tried to negotiate with Trump. Because if they thought there was other ways around Trump, why even talk to him? They don't have that type of muscle that they can flex. So now these people are now traveling to these people's countries for the sake of garnering the attention to change the narrative locally inside of our country to make Trump look bad so that they can win potentially in the primaries and shift the axis of power back to them. Maybe it'll be effective. Maybe it won't be. But to me, this is really kind of smoke and mirrors. And you can tell the Danish reporters are like, can you actually do anything? What can you do? So what are you going to do? What can you do? Well, you know, we just want to get the information directly, and then we'll go back and communicate it to our people. Everyone's been following along. Like, they're all aware. They just traveled to the U.S. The news reported all over it. Trump didn't change his position. You really can't do anything to stop him. The same way you couldn't do anything to stop the tariffs, the same way you couldn't do anything to stop the operation in Venezuela, the same way you can't really do anything. You're just going there to make a skeptical and to attempt to make Trump look bad and frame it in a way that benefits your party or those who are trying to undermine him. That's what this is, a bunch of smoke and mirrors, if you really look at it.
So that we can lower the temperature and have a more constructive dialogue about the best path forward. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. That was the final question. So I want to thank everybody. And if you are able, maybe you can have a one-on-one. So thank you very much for coming.
Okay. That was the video. Hopefully you guys have found my analysis helpful. This is just me reading through it. Again, if you're not connected, definitely like and subscribe, stay connected to the channel, but also let your voice be heard. Share your comments. What do you think? This is how I'm reading the situation. What do you think about it? You know, definitely weigh in. And until we meet again, we'll talk soon. God bless.